Hi, Phil Lindsay here with Peep magazine. We're here at the Grosvenor Casino with the man himself, Mr. Steve Wraith, the head of Collision Course, March the 18th, your first show of the year. Yes, tell me about it.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Obviously, we had the top of the bill, which was a Northern Area title fight. I'd done a little bit of work over the last couple of months, just trying to get two really good Northern Area title fights sorted for my first 2 shows of the year. Cruelly taken away from us with an injury. The only thing I'm really bothered about is Tom.
It's not just a title fight; it's a mouth-watering
title
fight after what happened the previous time, you know.
Rematch as well, but you know, I think the way that the Cope camp have handled it, the way Mal's handled it, it speaks volumes for them. And it's something which I think, you know, all being well, Tom's recovery goes well, it's something we know we can get on. So it's postponed rather than cancelled, and you know, obviously it just means it's not on this show, but you know, at least Dan's still got a fight. You know, he's still going to be on, still going to top the bill. And for me, it's just it's just good to be back out there again. I always hate that lull between Christmas and the New Year, because you know, whether you're doing events like the Tyson Fury event we had last week, or whether you're doing, you know, boxing shows, it's just a nightmare to have time off. And you know, especially with me, my mind's always ticking over. What's my next event? What am I going to do? And I just don't like the quiet time. You know, it's nice to spend a bit of time with your family. But I think any bloke will tell you in my business, you know, when you're sitting around for a couple of weeks, it's great. But when it gets to that 3rd and 4th weekend, you know, and it's people haven't got the money in January. You know, we couldn't put an event on in January. I think last year we did a show February, and that was a good show. Enjoyed it, but it's still tough because you know, boxers are selling tickets and they're struggling to sell tickets to people who are paying off Christmas.
Well, I think any boxing fan, whether you're a boxing fan, is even the non-boxing fans, you know, people get paid before Christmas, and then you don't get paid until the end of January. So January's everybody's skint anyway, not even boxing fans. And then you're playing catch up at the February, and it's often by the time it gets to March where people are starting to get on a solid footing. So March for the first show. Well, you're not the only one. Phil's having his show in March, and obviously Fighting Chance are having their first show in March as well. So it's not by chance.
No, it's exciting times. I mean, you know, 3 promoters in the region now. There needs to be 3 promoters because of the volume of people who've turned professional in the last few years, and 3 completely different shows, 3 diverse shows, you know, and all in 3 areas which love boxing. So you know, for me, you know, I think it's great. I don't think there's, you know, any competition between the 3 of us, because I think we all know what we're doing. We're all able to work together, and I think we're all happy to work apart. So you know, there's no issues. I'm delighted the Fighting Chance took it. They've talked about it, you know,
at least quite 2 years.
They've been talking about it for long enough. And likewise with me jumping into management, you know, I'd spoken about that. Obviously, you're held back by the border control and the area council not allowing you to take another licence out for 3 years when you take a promoter's licence, and that's frustrated me at times, because I've seen a few fighters who I think, well, I'd like to have signed him, or I'd like to have signed him, but you know, it wasn't meant to be. And now I've got my manager's licence. You know, I've already added, you know, 3 fighters to hopefully a growing stable.
Brilliant. So the fight with Tom and Dan's fell through, so Dan's still going to be fighting, obviously. No opponent.
No opponents yet. No, I mean, Mick Marsden's got a hell of a job on now, you know, this month, because you know, he's got 3 fights to you know, 3 shows to sort out. And obviously, you know, Phil's is first on the 5th of March. Huge show. You know, I've had a couple of messages with Phil, you know, the other day, and it's frustrating trying to get people matched up. There's not as many journeymen around now, and that's a big issue.
Especially for the guys at the early part of the career. I'd say get your 7th, 8th fight, then by all means take somebody else on, but you've got to have those learning fights at the start.
And Phil's always going to have problems, because he's always putting on, you know, shows with huge amounts of fights on, so you know, he's going to have more problems than me, who's probably only putting, you know, 5 or 6 fights on at the moment. So for me, it's, you know, we're all in the same boat. We're all putting pressure on Mick Marsden to do the matchmaking, but that's what he gets paid for, so it's up to him to make the matches. You know, if we've got to bring foreign boxers in, it doesn't frighten me. You know, it's something which we've done on more than one occasion. I'll need a foreign opponent, certainly for Jeff Saunders, probably need one for Lee Mould. May have to get one, you know, for 1 or 2 of the other lads as well. So, you know, ultimately, if it's foreign fighters, we just need to make sure that the money's there to pay them, and you know, we've got a good show. But I'm happy with it. You know, the current situation in Newcastle, Gateshead, Sunderland, Middlesbrough. it's fantastic and it's great for fight fans. Great, you know, I see it all the time. I maybe don't comment on it, but see, you know, Peep magazine's going out to all these different places, and you know, it's great for everybody because it's raised the profile of the game, it's raising the profile of your company, raising the profile of me and my company and my lads.
Everybody wins.
Everybody wins, yeah. So, and there will be situations that will come up where my fighter or Fighting Chances fighter or Phil's fighter will end up on a collision course. You know, we'll end up where we'll have to fight each other, and that's where co-promotions will come in. You know, and in fact, I can sit down with Lewis and Ronnie, I can sit down with Phil at any time and say, right, look, you know, this fight's got to happen, let's get it on, and that's it, you know. And the trainers as well, all great in this region, you know, there's some great trainers. There's already mentioned Mal, but you know, Peter Cope as well, you know, we've got a good relationship with him, and they're happy because they don't have to put all the fighters on one show now, you know. They're not worried about ticket sales from their gym because there's an equal gap between my show and Phil's show and Fighting Chances show, and it's giving everybody an opportunity. So you know, it's exciting times.
So you had 4 shows last year.
Yep.
Planning this probably similar again this year.
Similar again, yeah. I mean, you know, I read somebody's, you know, there was like a poll or one of these straw polls done about promoters, the top 100 promoters in the UK, and you always take them with a pinch of salt. It's nice to get mentioned in them. Obviously, I was mentioning the one, the back end of last year, and I read with interest that said Steve would probably be higher up the rankings if he wasn't doing so many other things. And I mean, that is true, you know, but I've got to pay the bills. And boxing doesn't pay the bills for me. Boxing's a hobby, something I enjoy, you know, and I can't make money in the pro game.
It's a speculation, really, isn't it? It's like what might come further down the line financially, but that's not.
We're standing in Grosvenor Casino.
That, can you?
We're standing in Grosvenor Casino. There's no bigger, you know, there's no bigger gamble than being a professional boxing promoter, because you're setting out to lose yourself money. You know, many people have told us that before I came into it, and you know, it's, you know, luckily, touch wood, you know, I'm in a position where I haven't had a big hit, but it will come, I'm sure, at some point. And you know, I just have to cope with it and, you know, decide what I want to do after that and move on. But I, you know, I'm enjoying it still, you know, and I think a lot of people thought I would just go away, and I'm still here, you know, into my 4th year, still enjoying it, and if I can get, you know, average between 3 or 4 shows a year, I'm happy. A lot of it comes down to, you know, availability of fighters. A lot of it comes down to, you know, money, you know, whether the sponsors are coming on board. And, you know, I don't have one big sponsor, I have numerous sponsors, you know, and they're a big help to me. And
there's the extra stability that way as well, because it's not the same risk as one sponsor comes out and then you're wiped out. It's
costing you on average to put a show on like this. You know, you're talking around about £4,500. That's without the fighters being paid. So you know, that gives you an idea of what kind of money I have to bring in sponsorship to put on every show. So people may think that, you know, people like myself, Phil, and, you know, Fighting Chance, who are starting off, you know, are raking in the money when they see the tickets are priced at 35 quid or 75 quid or whatever they're priced at. But it's just not the case. You know, we genuinely need people's help. We need these sponsors. We need them to put money in. But likewise, when you've got a sponsor, you have to look after them. You know, and you know, it's no good promising something and not delivering it. And you know, like, you know, the reason we have our press conferences at Grosvenor Casino and the weigh-ins at Grosvenor Casino, the after party at Grosvenor Casino is very simple. It's because they've backed me since day one.
Yeah, exactly. Give back.
And now, because of the relationship we've got with this casino, when my next show happens on the 13th of May in Darlington at the Dolphin Centre, we've got Grosvenor Casinos backing in Stockton. So that's massive for me, you know. And it's not fortunes they put in because, you know, they have to be, you know, they have to take reflection on it. We haven't got Anthony Joshua fighting on this. It's local fighters, but we're in a position where we've got the trust of Grosvenor Casino, and that's great from us. So that's given me a kickstart in a new area, you know.
Well, you've got the relationship, and the relationship can be nurtured, you can grow, and just like the boxing within the region, like 2015 was the biggest year.
Massive, yeah.
Since I've been a boxing fan anyway. I mean, we've had people like Billy Hardy and stuff fighting, Glenn McCrory fighting at high level, but the amount of talent we've got, the amount of guys who are coming through,
I mean,
the amount of shows, the amount of fights we've got, the amount of guys that we've got turned up, as you mentioned before. So you've still got
Stewie Hall, you know, he's in contention again for like another world title shot, which, you know, we could have another world title back in the region. You know, it's a tough fight for him, but I'd like to think that, you know, he's got that chance to bring like the belt back here again. And, you know, Matchroom and Eddie Hearn need something to build on, you know. you look no further than Anthony Nelson, who's now got a fantastic sponsor on board, and he's got a real chance of building on the Commonwealth belt. It's been a delay. We know the way things work in boxing, but he's got the best trainer, and he's got a great camp around him. And for me, having now a sponsor where he can actually concentrate on training full time, that's where Bradley Saunders has been. And look what happened with Bradley. It got Bradley onto that world stage. Got him onto Sky, and you're in a position now where I think Anthony Nelson can do exactly the same, and he's got talent, and I'm sure he'll go on. Certainly going to give a good go at a British title, but if you're in the right place at the right time and you get the right fights, why couldn't Anthony Nelson win a world title?
Well, at the lower weights, you tend to get accelerated up the rankings a lot quicker as well, because there's less boxers at that weight.
Yeah, but he's a big thing, and I genuinely think he's got what it takes to do that. And I'd love to see him do it. I'll be there, whatever happens.
Well, that's one of the things. Obviously,
I may not be involved, but I'll be there to see it happen, and that'd be great.
Through Nella's successes, obviously, it's not been your successes, but you've been there for them, and you've played a big part.
Been involved in his early fights,
great.
Thanks to Mal, really.
From somebody watching on, and obviously being an observer with a roving eye.
Yeah.
Those have been the happiest times I've seen you involved in boxing.
That's showing Shields. It's where I was born. To be down there and hear all those people chanting Nella and just walking them into the ring.
What an atmosphere it was down there as well.
It was awesome, and I mean, you just need, we'll get more of those nights up here, I'm sure, but I think it'll be Nella who brings them here,
So, you've now got your management licence.
Yep.
Now that's going to give you more options, maybe further down the line, as it's not about just adding people willy-nilly.
No,
it's getting the right people on, not just, the most potential. It could be certain fighting styles that yes, they're going to bring value. The likes of Dougie Curran, he always comes and brings value. So you might not have an unbeaten record and things, but Dougie Curran always does that. So as you add more people to your management team, people who you want with managing, then you can start putting shows on where you've got a lot of your own fighters on there as well, and that's probably going to be your end game, what you're working towards, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have to, because you can't be beholden to people who you may end up, maybe he's not speaking to or falling out with.
These things happen.
Good trainer, he's got the right attitude. He's in a great camp with Jeff, and as you see, heard today he's bouncing off Jeff Saunders in the gym, and I think he's good. Lloyd Creighton, a bit older than most people, in the fight game, but he's got experience. He asked me if I would take Marnie, saw that I'd signed Hepler on. He's really looking as a return to boxing. He wants to win things, but he's also happy to go out on the road. He wants to make money out of boxing again. So he's happy to go out and be a journeyman, I think. So he's back in the gym. He makes his debut or his return to the ring on the 13th of May, along with Hepler and Christian Adjafak, who we were going to put on this show, but we're still deciding on what weight he's going to fight. Paul O'Malley's training him. He's doing a good job with him. Obviously, we know the history of Christian is very similar to Thomas Asomba.
Yeah.
From my perspective, to have
slightly bigger version though.
To have somebody like him come on board with me again is great, and it gives us a foot in a couple of different gyms as well. And I have been down to watch Christian spar, been to see him train. Likewise, I'll be going down to see Neil. As it starts to gets a bit closer to the 13th of May, I'll be going down to watch him train. And for me, it's just about keeping in contact with the lads, but making sure the profiles out there, because it's getting back to Nella. With social media, Nella's nailed that. He's on Facebook, he's got his Twitter page. He knows what he's doing, and that's the kind of thing you need to instill into fighters.
Yeah.
I asked this question to Tyson Fury last week. It was the one question I asked him, at his dinner. How important has social media been for you? And he said that's a great question. And he said I would advise every single boxer, pro or amateur, to start getting your social media going, because that ultimately helps build your profile and helps sell tickets. And it's just nice to hear that, because that's the kind of thing I'll be instilling in my fighters as I sign different people on. And I've got some options. There's a couple of people I haven't signed on who I've looked at and spoken to. Everybody thinks they can do it. It takes a certain character. I've put my faith in Anne Ormsby, who's I want him to continue in his amateur career. He's an up and coming fighter, Newcastle-based fighter. Got him well, we'll get on well with his parents. He's training at the amateur levels good. He's still got a bit of growing to do, but he's my kind of fighter. He's aggressive, he's on the front foot. I've seen him in with some big lads in the amateurs, and nothing frightens him, and I think he's a one for the future, definitely, when he decides to turn pro.
Just planting those seeds.
Of course it is, yeah, and you've got to get in early, because you've got to bear in mind everybody else is doing the same. Everybody else is watching for that potential next big thing. But but you know, I think Ant's potential is there for everybody to see at the amateur level. We know it's a big jump into the pro game, but I think he's got what it takes. And there's one or two others. I'm hoping in the next couple of months that I'll get them across the line. But if you know, for whatever reason, I think they're not good enough, or they're probably thinking, you know, the pro game's not for me, then we'll just leave it. I'm happy where I've got at the moment, though. Happy working with Mal Gates, happy working with Peter Cope, and happy working with Ronnie Rowe, and you know, those three have got some great fighters, and I'm sure certainly we're fighting chance. You know, we've mentioned it, potentially of linking up for a show maybe later in the year. You know, but who knows where we'll be in 5-6 months' time.
Going to bring.
But I mean, certainly got no issues with working with fighting chance, but you know, quite happy to work on my own as well. You know.
So just touching back on the social media aspect you mentioned before. The regions boxers, and it's the same all over the place. Some of them sell a hell of a lot of tickets.
Yeah.
Some of them don't sell many tickets at all, and there's different reasons for that. And what I've noticed is the guys who sell the most tickets, it's not just them. They've got a network. They've got the sisters, the friends, different ones. They've got the local shops selling the tickets, and they have that network. But they also have the online presence there as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's a massively important thing, is having that full network. And you, with your background as a self-promoter and all the different things that you do, that's one of your key strengths that you can help give them within that.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, we've got the girls, you know, the entertainment. We're going for a slightly different format. You know, Aria and Jamila, you know, it's a different strand of my business. You know, I'm signing up some acts. I've managed a band called The Long Sands for about 4 years now. They've got a new album coming out this year. But Jamila now is, you know, Jamila's now, you know, she's ready. She's a former X Factor contestant. She's ready to go, you know, go and give that one more go. She was in a girl band. She's now, you know, now essentially a solo artist. You know, she wants help with her EP, so I'm going to do that. And then you've got Aria Sage, you know, who's again up and coming talent. So people are going to see, apart from the boxing talent, are going to see a bit of different talent, singing talent at this event. So it's, you know, I've got. Social media has to go around them as well. Yeah. You know, from my point of view.
Well, you can tick a lot of different boxes within that, can't
exactly,
you?
And they will help push the tickets and sell the tickets as well, you know.
So the last time you had a singer on was at the Lancastrian Suite.
That's right, yeah.
And the way that worked out there was she came on at the end. I was talking with Peter about this yesterday. She came on at the end.
Yeah, it's going to be a different format this time.
And obviously the boxers, fans had all...
Yeah. This is going to be completely different. We're going to have a slightly later weigh-in. We're also going to have, obviously, the VIPs who bought the tickets for the balcony. They will be getting their food. Yeah. So as soon as they come in, the food will be served 7:30. The entertainment will be on first, and then the fighting will be on later on. So
are you going to have some of the entertainment at the mid-break?
Everything's essentially, you know the way it works with our shows. In general, these shows, small shows, but you're looking at a situation here where, you know, that something happens or whatever, and then we can't get an entertainer on it. Don't want that to happen. So we've got little, you know, 3 great entertainers. They're all going to give it a bit of a build-up. We've got the DJ as well, playing the music, the ring entrance music, etc. And then, you know, boxing, I would imagine, will start around about the 8:30, 9 o'clock mark. You know, it'll be it's just going to be a different night. You know, I think it'll be a different vibe, a different night. We'll still have the Barmy Army there, which is great, making some noise, but it's just going to be slightly different. You know, and you know, it's a good venue. There are better venues, and you know, that'll be something I'll be announcing, you know, in due course about a long-term link up with a new venue for the boxing, hopefully in the next few weeks. Yeah, I've obviously mentioned that at the top table before. I was going to press you and see if I could get any little. I can't see anything hints on that one. I can't see anything yet, but I'll make sure it's a Peep exclusive when it comes out. There you go. You didn't hear it here first, but you will do. Yeah. Steve Wraith, thank you very much for the show. I know the last week itself, as it's building up towards that, can be a little bit of a pull the hair out. Try not get depressed, but good luck to Fighting Chance and Phil Jeffries with their shows as well. And Craig Dixon as well. And Craig Dixon, I think it's a great fight, that, and you know, it's a 50-50 fight, and that's what he does it. You know, good luck to Craig. Right. See you next time. Bye bye.